Well, well, well. Guess who decided to come back? Although that somebody who came back forgot to bring a tripod, even though he wants to speak about things. Hey y'all, I'm Ernest James, and this is Ernest James Speaks About Things. If you like what you're watching, if you are enjoying it, or if you want to support, if you want to do all those things, like the video, subscribe to the channel. There'll be a separate channel created for Ernest James Speaks About Things. Right now, it's under the Ernest Shepard YouTube channel. It's going to start going to the Ernest James Speaks About Things as I start to streamline a couple of different things. Kind of make things a little bit easier for you, easier for me, and hopefully we can have a lot of fun. What's Ernest James Speaks About Things? Well, I'm Ernest James, former producer for an online radio show called The Curtain Call Sports Show, producer, host, co-host, former associate producer for a couple of other shows, and former sports anchor for a couple of shows as well. That's way down in memory lane as life changed and me no longer being an anchor or a producer. It started sports writing and news writing and acting and comedy and a few other different things. Let's just say I'm a virtuoso when it comes to a couple of different things. So I aptly titled this Ernest James Speaks About Things, where I talk about politics, news, sports, current events, and today's topic, it's been a long time, y'all, but today's topic, how to handle grief. Because this is an important topic. It's an important topic to me. I will talk about why I've been away. For those who were checking for me, thank you. For those who are new to me, thank you. For those who have followed me on TikTok, thank you. If you want to follow me on TikTok, I will be doing more TikTok videos and fan base as well. And you can find me at ernestj.shepard. That's ernestj.shepard. ERNESTJ.shepard. Once again, ERNESTJ.shepard. And Ernest James Speaks About Things. There will be a separate channel for this because I want to minimize things and simplify things and streamline things and make things a little easier accessible. So if you like what you hear, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on Spotify, subscribe to the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. I want this to grow. I want to help people. I want to enlighten people. I want to engage people. I want to educate people if I can. I'm a people person. But let me, for those who were starting to get on board and have come back to check on me and check me out, let me apologize for not being around. The last time I have done a podcast, a show, what so on and so forth, was during the election cycle, where you had that man versus Kamala Harris. And there was a lot of election talk. And in the middle of everything, life started lifing me. Life started lifing the hell out of me. For many of you who don't know, my father, I had discovered that he had cirrhosis of the liver. He had been in the hospital for about a week before I found out. I'm not good at answering phone calls I don't have saved. And if you don't leave me a message, I don't call back. It's just me. Too many scams out there. But discovered that he had cirrhosis of the liver. And that was in October. And then he just got sicker and sicker and sicker. And eventually he passed away in the middle of February. So that explains my hiatus. And I am going through my motions. So as I'm going through my motions, I'm sure that I'm not alone. I'm sure there are other people who are feeling the sting of someone that they're missing. Now, let me say, my father was not a great person. He was not a great man. He did not do anything great. In fact, and I love him to death, but despite all that, he was a horrible person. And he did some horrible, horrible things. It's kind of like you have to separate, for me, when it comes to art, music, movies, and things like that. You have to separate the art from the artist. That's what I call it. Well, with my father, I had to separate the man and who he was to me from the actions. And it was something that I struggled with from the time I understood that he got sick, that he was sick, up until the time of his passing. And I'll be the first to tell you, now that it's been a little over a month, I'll be the first to tell you it doesn't get any easier. The fact that he was who he was, the feeling, it doesn't it it, it doesn't make things easy. And it doesn't help that there was another death in my family along the way. But I wanted to have a discussion, and we're gonna have some discussions, some grown people discussions about many different things. Because his passing, it taught me something. It it made me think about a lot of different things. And one of the things that hit my mind was, hey man, you're one of the few people who actually know your purpose. I maintain that I know what my purpose is. And I don't give a damn if you or anyone else disagrees. I know my purpose, but I don't know how to fulfill that purpose. I don't know how to make that purpose turn into promise. So I've struggled, which goes into the lack of consistency and a lot of other different things in my life. But him passing away, my dad passing away, it had me rethinking some things. It had me rethinking the relationships that I have with people, the conversations that I have with people. You know, we have the election cycle that passed, and now we got this guy in office, and you know, I it, for an example, I don't I don't care who you voted for, as long as you're able to explain it and make it make sense. And you don't have to explain it to me, but you have to be able to live with the decision that you made and make it make sense. But even still, if you voted for this guy, I know you can't be on board with this. You can't. You can't. You can't possibly be on board with this. What's going on? And if you're okay with that, then this is not a discussion that I want to have. So that's an example. Like, I'm not arguing with folks. I'm not going back and forth with folks. I'm not going to waste my energy on things that don't give me nutritional value, if you know what I mean. My father's passing, it's one of the takeaways. It's one of the things that had me thinking about that. Like, I've wasted a lot of my voice, a lot of my time, a lot of my effort and my energies on useless ass conversations with people who aren't going to think rationally enough to engage with me or engage with anyone else for that matter who thinks the opposite of them. Not having those topics, not having those discussions, not going to engage. And you could talk, but I'm going to ignore. That was one of my takeaways. The other thing was how I'm handling grief and how this grief feels differently than anything I've ever dealt with. For those who don't know, up until maybe 6 or 7, I lived with my mom when I was up until about 6 or 7, and then I started living with my grandmother primarily. I would spend nights with my mom, spend nights in my mom's house, maybe a couple of days here or there, but primarily with my grandmother. So I'm lucky enough to have 2 women that I would call mom. 3 if you include my aunt. I didn't feel this way when my grandmother passed back in 2008, the end of 2008. My aunt passed about 2 years ago. I didn't feel this way. My cousin passed a little more than a year ago. I didn't feel this way. My uncle, who was my father figure, emotions. My uncle, who was my father figure, who taught me how to tie a tie, who introduced me to sports, who introduced me to how to dress and how to be like a man, who actually played catch with me, who took me on those jogs and those runs and all those different things, who taught me how to lift weights, and who helped teach me how to fight, to box, to do all the manly things that I know. He's been gone about 3 years, 2.5 years. But it doesn't feel like this. And as I'm grieving, I know for a fact, if you're watching this, there is someone in your life that passed on that you miss, and you're grieving too. And since 2008, I've lost, right now it's 20, 22, 23 people who was once upon a time someone significant in my life. And for those first several, I was numb. This one hits. If you like what I'm saying, if you like what you hear, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. I appreciate every bit of support that you lend me. I want to keep getting into the heavy ass topics that we don't talk about, topics that me as a black man feel as though it's some bitch shit to talk about. Right? You ask any of the black men that you know when they're going through their emotions, when they're dealing with death, when they're going through situations involving their health and everything, most of the time they'll be like, nah, I'm good. I was that one too. And then I watched a man who, like I say, wasn't the greatest person, was a horrible person. But he was a tough man. I watched him whittled down to nothing before my very eyes. From October to September. I sat there listening to him holler because he's in pain. It's the same man who told me when my cousin passed away, who was like a brother to me. Same man who told me, don't be crying. Don't cry for me. Don't feel bad. Death is part of life. It's the same man. I learned how to be a father because my father was not fully a father. But I firmly believe that the greatest lesson that I was supposed to learn from my father happened as he was passing away. And it happened as he passed away. Ernest James don't live. Ernest James hasn't lived. Ernest James is focused on too many people and making so many others happy and foregoing his own happiness. And I'm talking about me in third person. I've made sure everyone else was okay while ignoring what I need. And I have to take care of myself too. Have to make sure that my pitcher of water has enough water for me to be able to drink because people rely on me. That was one of my takeaways. My other takeaway is that I let in too much foolishness, too much nonsense, too many things that don't give me nutritional value, too much negativity. Not enough people trying to be part of the solution, but people who want to be the problem and people who want to deflect and divert. People who are only focused on what you can do for them and not what you can do together. That was one of the greatest takeaways I have ever had in my life. Just recently, and it comes from grief. I have had my moments where I've cried. I've had my moments where I've gotten angry. I've had my moments where I've been very sad as the world is going on around me. And very few moments in the world where people are paying attention to check in. Hey, how you feeling? Hey, I saw what was going on. Just want to make sure you're okay. Haven't had a lot of that. When my uncle passed, there was something that I said during his funeral. It was a reasonably sized church, but it was less than 70 people there. Maybe even less than 60. And as I spoke to a crowd of divided family members, this is a reflection of the relationships we've cultivated. Family member over here, family member over there. No one talking to each other. Why do I bring that up? Well, I'm one of 9 on my father's side. I have sisters whose names I don't even remember. Some, not all, some whose names I don't even remember. I have sisters who didn't have a relationship with my father at all. I have a brother, same name. I'm Ernest James III. He's Ernest James Jr., Ernest Shepard III. He's Ernest Shepard Jr. somewhere in Michigan, and I've never laid eyes on this dude. Wouldn't even know if he was standing in front of me. That's a relationship that was cultivated by my father. Why do I say that? Because when you care about people, tell your people that you care about them. Don't be so fucking tough and keep it to yourself. Stand on your feelings because you don't know if you're here today or you're gone tomorrow. That was the main takeaway that I got from my father. So I'm checking in with everybody. How you feeling? Do you know grief is okay? If you are not feeling okay, it's okay to say that you're not okay. It's okay to acknowledge that you are unwell. It's okay to acknowledge that you need some help. It's okay to acknowledge that you want to break down and cry. One of the toughest men I've ever seen, I've ever known, I'm watching him crying. Never thought that I would see him at such a broken and battered state and crying. We can do that while we have all our faculties. You hear me? All of our faculties. We can shed our tears while we are still who we are and have the memories that we have. We can build the relationships with the people that we know, that we love, that we care about, and not just push them aside because they're not part of our agenda or they don't want to be down with our agenda. Hence, this election bullshit and the dude that's in office, right? Y'all following me here? See, too close to the mic. But y'all following me here? It's okay to not be okay. I've learned that when you lose a loved one, with all of the loved ones that I've lost, not every death feels the same. Every death is going to impact you differently. Every death is going to take you on a roller coaster ride if you're not just numb. If you're not just numb to it. I learned that I can't be numb anymore. To live is to have all of the emotions. That's happy, sad, glad, mad, angry, depressed, lonely, annoyed, irritated, agitated, joyous, jubilant, frisky, free, flirty, poignant, destructive. I've rambled off so many different emotions. As long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting anybody, it's okay to feel that way. We have to allow ourselves to feel. If we don't feel anything, then how in the hell are we living? The greatest emotion of them all is love. Despite my father being a horrible man who did horrible things, murder, robbery, kidnapping, attempted murder, robbery, sexual assault, that was my father. My father who did that shit. Drug sales. Part of the curse of the generation, and he was only doing what he knew to survive. It was not he was not built up enough to recognize that he needs some help, to recognize that he needs to talk to people, to recognize that he needs the community, to recognize that he needs love in order to go further. Y'all hear me? The greatest emotion of all when we're dealing with grief is love. And I want to say, I love each and every one of you. Thank you all for listening. I'm Ernest James. If you've liked what you heard, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. You can follow me on TikTok, EJS, blah, blah, blah. I'm all over the place. ERNESTJ.SHEPARD. That's TikTok and fan base. ERNESTJ.Shepherd, SHEPARD, at TikTok and fan base. Like and subscribe. There's more coming. I've been away too long. Grief is a necessary emotion. Allow yourself to feel it, because you can't live without feeling it. And once you feel it, allow yourself to love. Love on yourself, love on your people. I'm Ernest James. This is Ernest James Speaks About Things. Thank you.